What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker here on Unique Access, and today for Best Albums, we're joined by CJ Mack. Thank you for coming through, sir.
Yes, sir. Always a pleasure.
Man, and CJ Mack has selected one of the best-selling and most important albums in rap history, which is Snoop Doggy Dogg's, at the time, Doggystyle.
Doggystyle.
Yes. Now, this album came out in 1993. It's, comes after The Chronic.
Right.
And it's Snoop's debut album. So for you, living out here at the time and being in the mix with everything, like, what was kind of the aftermath of The Chronic setting up Doggystyle? Like, what was the mood in the streets? What was the mood of the music? Like, what was happening?
Well, the riots had taken place, which brought a lot of people together at the time. You had Crips and Bloods going to different neighborhoods, throwing picnics and hanging out and trying to have some peace within the streets at the time.
Right.
So it was a lot of togetherness. And so when and they had already done the G-Thang song and showed all that togetherness and people hopping down the streets and everything of Dr. Dre's record. So it was just a really, really good time, man. In my personal life, I was trying to transition and trying to become something more than what I was doing. I was mixed up in the wrong things, hustling and all that kind of stuff. So I was trying to transition and become an entertainer. And once again, when I heard that record, it was another thing that just inspired me, and I was like, wow, who is this kid, man?
Yeah, right. Because one of the things that The Chronic did beyond put Snoop on a pedestal is it really showed like this whole wave of artists, and Snoop obviously dominated The Chronic with Dre, but Snoop, even with the other people on The Chronic, Snoop was so like prominent and such a star.
Yes.
So by the time we get to Doggystyle, he was the first album in music history to have his debut album be the #1 album in the country his first week, because he had so much momentum and his music was so amazing. So for you, what was your first recollections of hearing Doggystyle? Like a first song you remember?
Well, there was a guy by the name of Aaron Anderson, rest in peace. He used to run a record store called Madhouse Records back in the days. Then he became a record exec. He called me and said, "You gotta hear this. This kid is amazing." So I'd already heard him on Deep Cover. I already heard him on The Chronic. He's like, "Man, this guy, I'm telling you, man, he's the best there ever lived, man." Like, he was super like that, right? And I was like, yeah, he cool. And then he played Snoop Doggy, and you know what I mean? I was like, oh, okay. Slim with the tilted brim, like he just went off, right? And I was like, okay. So he had me. Not only that, but he had the whole country captivated from the Deep Cover and that. And then, you gotta remember, he had a murder case at the same time that his album was dropping.
So not only was he the first artist in music history, his first album was #1. He was the first artist to be #1 while on trial for murder.
While on trial for murder, he's on Newsweek.
Yeah, the cover.
Gangstered up. He's on the cover of Newsweek, gangstered out. So it's like, whoa, okay, this dude is for real, And then he brought it. He lived up to expectations, man. He got cracking. That's my favorite album of his.
Okay. And what's your favorite song on Doggystyle?
This is for the G's and this is for the Hustlers. This is for the Hustlers. Now back to the G's.
And that's a very unconventional pick or unusual pick for most people. So what was it about that song that resonated to you?
Just got out, man. I mean, he just went in and he just took off. And I told him one day he was doing a show in Las Vegas, and I was with him. And I was like, "Hey, man, do my song, man." He was like, "What? Which one? I said, G's and Hustlers." He said, "That one?" I was like, "Yes, and that's my favorite song." He's like, "Man, that's crazy." He said, "Man, I freestyled that whole song."
Wow.
I was like, "For real?" He's like, "Man, I freestyled every word on that song. I didn't write nothing. I just got in there and just freestyled the whole thing." I was like, "Wow!" But that just a testament to his talent,
Yeah.
He's special. He's really special.
Yeah, and the thing that I think that makes Doggystyle so great, as is the case with a lot of other great albums, is it has such a range. You got like a lot of comedy on there. You got like the skits, the street stuff, and then obviously the music is phenomenal. So, like, when you look at it with Ain't No Fun, for example, like, it's one thing, like, obviously the subject matter is what it is, but at the same time, they made it, like, in a way, fun and, like, engaging.
Yeah.
So how, like, as a fan, as a writer yourself, like, when you listen to a song that's super nasty and super sexual like that, but they did it in what many people consider fun and a song that a lot of women love, like, how do you think they're able to pull that off?
Well, it was a melodic song,
Okay.
and people get into the beat, and it's more so, you can tell that today more so than back then. But people have always liked a good beat and a good chorus.
Right.
The average rap fan, they don't know how to rap and all that. I think that's why we have the type of rap we have now, because it's easier to emulate for someone that can't rap.
True.
Right? You can't rap. It's easy to say, well, I don't want to diss nobody, but it's easy to just repeat some stuff 1,000 times and that's not really rap, you know what I mean? But back then it was lyrics, so even then though, you had that crowd of people, which was the vast majority, that just wanted to hear a good melodic chorus, a deep bass line, and a banging beat.
Right.
So I think that's how they were able to pull that off.
And then speaking of women, obviously Rage kicked off the album with the intro. So for you, like hearing like a woman, even though we knew Rage already, like hearing a woman kick off Snoop's album, like what did that mean to you?
That was crazy. I mean, women were more. It was more than one artist here, like how Nicki Minaj might have kind of held it down for a long time. Now there's Remy Ma, but back then you had several women that were involved in hip hop, so it didn't really shock me. What shocked me more is how hard she came.
Okay.
Like I was like, this Rage is the truth.
Yeah.
Like man, like their whole crew, man, was just phenomenal. You know, at one point Daz was my favorite. Like Daz used to spit crazy too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Then you had Corrupt. You know, it was like they just had the all-star cast, man. It was like, who can beat them is what I was thinking at the time.
And that's the range of it, because they had so many of the harder
Nate
records, but then they had like, Doggy Dogg World, where it's like smooth.
Yeah.
So like when you hear the range on the project, what do you think about that creatively?
It had something for you to ride to. You didn't have to fast forward or anything like that on that album. You could just put it in and just roll and listen to the entire album. And that was at a time where a lot of people could only do 2 or 3 songs. You know, that was, people was getting the eject button and fast forward and all that back then.
Right.
But you couldn't do that to Doggystyle. You just put it in and just roll, and it would just take you on a trip, take you to different moods. That us being writers, that's what I want to see in a film. That's what I want to see. Anything that I consume is I want to go through all the different emotions.
Right.
And if you can do that, then I think you have a great piece of work.
And they did it as Dre had been doing since the Ruthless era with the skits. We had W Balls on there and everything. So with gangster rap in particular, I've always thought that humor is one thing, and satire and different wrinkles to the storytelling bring so much to it.
Right.
So for you, when you hear something like W Balls and you hear Snoop's like comedy throughout the album, like what does that mean to you as a fan?
Well, for me, first of all, I've never really classified what we do as gangster rap. I think other people put that on us.
Well, the media did actually.
The media put it on us. So we were just doing what we know.
Right.
And so that album was like, that's what we do at home. Sit around, play dominoes and talk
crack jokes.
You know what I mean? And crack jokes and talk. That's normal living. So it was just like at home, it's like you got to take a look at what they were doing and what their lives were like. And it was so much, it was so similar to what I was living that it just was cool, you know what I mean? It was like, when the first time it really had been laid out like that for me.
Okay.
Like I like the old NWA stuff too, like, the way they did their stuff, and the Gangster, and Ice Cube was really great at skits and all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
Especially on his American Most Wanted and stuff like that. But that Doggystyle record was just, it just made, Snoop's got a love for all music.
Well, he's got the Lodi Dodi.
And obviously Dre's a genius, in making music. So Snoop has a love for all music. And his music, so you can tell that now he's in this mood and now you want to pop this in, So you were able to do that with one record.
So with Lodi Dodi in particular, as you know, being a student of the game and being in the game, like it was unprecedented for him to do a cover song, because that was like people would think you were biting or whatever.
Exactly.
And even Snoop addressed it on the intro. If you don't like it, you can do what you need to do. But what was your reaction to hear that Snoop had actually covered a song? Not like inspired by, but like literally.
Right. At first I was kind of like, that's kind of biting, like everybody else, right? But then we did that in LA. I don't know about around the country, but we did that. We took everybody's song, we put our own thing to it. Like you was gangbanging, you would change those lyrics to fit your neighborhood or your circumstances, and you would just fit it in, and he just did it on the record.
Okay.
That's what we did anyway. We would go to parties and Dana Dane's song would be playing, and we wouldn't sing the same lyrics he was. We would made up our own, depending on what neighborhood you were from or this or that. I don't want to just give examples, but but we would put our neighborhood in it, or the color shoes you had on it. You gets no rap with them dead ass shoes, cuz, you know what I'm saying? That type of thing, you know what I mean?
Right.
So Snoop just did it on a record. And he was just the first one to do it. So, you know, it's like, you know, I was like, well, okay, well, that's cool.
And plus, obviously this took place later, but that always was a point to me that it showed, and obviously we both know, like, there was a lot of love between the coast and the artists and stuff, but, you know, you have Snoop Dogg with Death Row, and they had their rivalry and stuff later, but Dre was sampling the East Coast records, so they clearly, Snoop's, you know, inspired by Slick Rick, obviously, and Dre is sampling, you know, a lot of Public Enemy and different things, and inspired by the Bomb Squad. The love was there between the coasts.
Right, and it still is.
And still is, always has been, in reality. And one song that was definitely big from coast to coast was Gin and Juice.
Gin and Juice.
So that, maybe, I would say, is probably the biggest song on the record. So why do you think that song resonated with so many people from so many walks of life?
It was smooth, everybody could relate. You know, rolling down the street, smoking Mendo, sipping on gin and juice, laid back. And that's just part of his demeanor. You know, Snoop's got that cool, laid back demeanor anyway. You know what I'm saying? So it's just him. You know what I mean? I just think so everybody could relate to it, and also everybody could just get his vibe and just catch his vibe and just catch him slowing the record down, man, and just chilling and like, once again, painting a picture of his environment.
And then I think the video added another dimension because, you know, Snoop had the afro, they were in the drive-in, you know, in the house party scene.
Yeah,
it was
and those opening lines were just like ridiculous. He just came with the perfect opening. You know, like when I write something, I try to think of that opening sentence means everything, and he just nailed it.
Yeah, amazing. So now, looking back, you know, why do you think Doggystyle by Snoop Doggy Dogg is considered the best album?
It had everything. There was nothing left. You threw the whole kitchen sink at it. It's nothing. What could you have done better on that record? Nothing.
Yeah.
There's no complaints. Like, what song can you complain about? What skit can you complain about? What beat can you complain about? Nothing. You know, what lyric? What did he say wrong? You know, we were talking earlier. Sometimes rappers say things wrong that don't match. He didn't.
Right. No, it's an amazing album.
It's an amazing record, and I just today, matter of fact, I think I'll bump it now.
Well, there it is, y'all. He's CJ Mack. I'm Soren Baker here on Best Album, Snoop Doggy Dogg's Doggystyle 1993. Listen again if you haven't. Get a late pass, man. Catch up.